Alright everyone, in this review, I'm going to be reviewing two figures originating from one very classic Nintendo Entertainment System game, Metroid. Now my one disclaimer is yes, I understand that both of these figures are not representative of the original Metroid game, but instead are representative of the video game called Metroid Other M. Let's start with the figure on the left over here. This figure comes from Figma. It's a Samus Aran suit version. If you look closely, this is the suit right here with very close to accurate colors that come from the video game itself. You have the kind of gold inside, kind of champagne color on the inside, the orange kind of rusty color, and the red. And of course, the gun with this teal type look to it. Now the paint job on it is pretty flat. It looks great because it's glossy. Although overall the paint is somewhat flat, it doesn't look like there's too much involved into the paint job that they did. There's no big variances in shades or anything like that to give it some kind of depth. That's one thing that I do like to see in some of my figures is a little depth in there. I mean, you can really tell right in here. It's a very flat color. Not saying it's bad. It's just I wish there was a little bit more to it to give a little bit more substance. Now this figure is extremely posable. As you can see right here, there's lots of joints, lots of ball joints. So it provides lots of different ways to move this thing. Ankles, toes even. Right here, the ankles. Lots of movement. Obviously you have them in the arms, shoulders. As we talked, as you could look a little bit right in here, the torso, the hip area. You can see a lot of movement that can be done on this thing. So that way you can pose it in different ways. Let me show you the box real quick. So that way you kind of get an idea of different poses. I don't want to move it around too much, and I'll explain that to you in a second. So here is the box. I don't want to go too much into it because it is just a box. I'm not like a lot of other places that they like to review the box. Good on them if they like to review it, fine. But I don't want to take up half of my review time in doing so. Now the posability. Here you go. You have these different versions. Now if you look at them, you'll see that you also have different parts that you can interchange in order to carry out these poses. You even have the little ball right here. This is actually a separate figure. This doesn't transform at all. These shoulders do not pop off and turn into this. No, nothing like that. It is a separate little figure that comes inside the box. You even have a thumbs up. You have flat hands. You have open fingers. Different types, that way you can carry those things out. Here's the ball I was talking about up here. And you also have a closed fist. And there you have it. And that's how you come up with these different poses. I kind of like this pose right now. I'm sure in the future I'll go ahead and change it around and do something as well. If you look closely inside, you can see the helmet. If you look at the helmet right in there, it might be hard without proper lighting, but that helmet actually has a little bit of metallic inside of it. I kind of wish that there was maybe some little subtle variance in there to kind of see there's some type of face in there, but there isn't. But that's all right. You can also see in here, in some of the spots, you can see in the molding where it comes together. I kind of wish they wouldn't do that. Maybe they could have done it in such a fashion where it looked like it was part of the suit, but instead, no, it isn't. Right here, you can tell where kind of the molding didn't work as well. Kind of messed that up a little bit, but the figure does look good. It's fairly clean, pretty basic, generic, but I do like it. I needed something with Metroid in my collection. Now I was talking a little bit about not moving it so much. Well, I do have a Kid Icarus version, and this one is not as bad as that one is. Some of you guys, if you guys have that Kid Icarus version, I believe it's also from Figma. It moves around a lot, but joints pop off. They get very loose. This one I had a little difficulty where the joint here in the hip popped off. It came apart. It was easy to put back together. Again, it's ball joints, so it's not a big deal. You can put it back together, but it is somewhat annoying. Something you still want to be careful of. I would highly encourage to make sure you use this base. so that way you can keep those poses. You don't want to move it around too much because eventually it becomes too loose, doesn't hold on its own, and it can create a problem. All right, so that's my review of this little guy right here. Now we have in the larger scale, much larger scale, we have the from MaxFactory, the Samus Zero Suit version. Again, as you saw in the other one, there's a clear base right here, so that way it doesn't detract from the rest of the figure. It also comes with this little guy right here from the series. This little looks like a brain sucker or face eater or something, but it looks pretty cool. If you notice, it might look a little bit funny. Yes, it is kind of cloudy on the inside. That's the way it was intended. It looks like it has 3 brains in there. I like the way it looks. It does add a little something to it. Some might argue it takes away from the figure. Personally, I kind of like having a little something extra other than just the figure. It's always nice when they throw in something different. Does it really go with the figure? I would argue, in my point of view, not really, unless somebody else can tell me why that's in there other than it's part of the game. I think the figure can stand on its own. So, talking about the figure and stand on its own, let me pull it apart right here so we can take a closer look at it. Again, the paint job is nice, although, again, fairly flat. It does look a little bit metallic, and I think a lot of that has to do with the gloss. There are some subtle variations in the paint scheme. As you can, I don't know how well you can see it, but there are some different color, especially coming right down the abdomen area. There's a little subtle difference under there. Some subtle differences around the shoulders. The mold here is done really well. I like the way they do the bone structure. Paint job on it, again, very well done. Of course, the pose. Yes, people will say it is somewhat seductive, and I'm not going to argue those points. However, the fact is that this is Samus, and those of you that may not be familiar, come from our genre where we played the video game, it was a very new twist to us. We saw Samus as being a guy the whole game until the very end, and it threw us for a loop. One of the biggest twists in all of video game history. So you have some of the decals on the back, right over here, the back of the hand. The back, I really like the decal on the back. It looks really sharp, really good. Kind of wish it was ribbed a little, so that way maybe it would give it a little bit more depth, but instead it's just part of the figure itself. Of course, you have all the different variances. You also have the shoulder, the holster right here for the gun. No, this does not come out, okay? Don't try to take it out. I wouldn't want to risk ruining the figure. It does not come out, but having the holster there is nice. It looks like this is part of this whole holster piece. It looks like it's part of the leg. You don't want to try to take that apart. One thing I do kind of have a complaint about, maybe other people might be able to school me a little bit on this, is why the stripper shoes. I don't understand it. I think that it kind of detracts a little bit about her qualities, because she is, although she is a very good looking figure. She is feminine. Obviously, she's a woman. I don't see the need for stripper type shoes. Just kind of, running around with these heels, I'm not too sure about. But anyway, I'm not a girl. I don't know about that kind of stuff. But I kind of like her and being the person that she is, and her personality in the game. She doesn't need that. Here's a picture of the face right here. Closer look at the face. I really like the face. Why? Because it's not perfect. So look at the long kind of nose, kind of give it kind of like she has some kind of ethnicity to her. Really like that they didn't go with some kind of flat generic. The ears pop out. The hair is done so that way it's kind of the swooping motion. It looks like it's moving. She has that kind of serious look. Nothing seductive. She means business. And I really like that. All right. Again, not much movement. And one other thing that you want to be careful about when you're putting on this base, some people might be like, oh, you know what? This base doesn't seem to go on right. It does go on right. Now, no jokes here. Okay, I'm not trying to joke. You'll see that there's some, it doesn't quite fit on correctly. So you actually have to spread her legs open. No jokes. Again, like I said, just spread her legs open a little bit and pop it on there. And get that right in there. And then she stands firmly, which actually I find I really like. The only reason why is because I have some other figures. Maybe one day I'll review it or not, especially from DC. They have posts. Now they fit on correctly, they fit on perfectly, too perfectly, because they just sit there and they wobble. Because it requires that tension to put on here, it keeps the figure from moving. It keeps it nice and sturdy. So that's the figure review for Metroid Other M Zero Suit. All right, I hope you liked this. If I were you, go out and get it, especially if you're a Nintendo fan, a Metroid fan. Great figure to have both of these in your collection. Here's the size difference. Yes, unfortunately, they didn't have a large one, and I would love to have a larger one in this Zero Suit size, but this is what I have, and I'm still glad to have it. All right, hope you enjoyed my review, and take care.